going on, everyone? It's Bob with Cinephellas. Today, I have an interview with Kate, Sherron, and Brian Lovell about their graphic novel, Silk Hills, a nice little horror book that Oni Press is currently distributing. We talk about the inspiration, we talk about color palettes, and even a couple horror movies along the way. Have yourself a watch. Let me know what you think.
Okay, Brian, thank you so much for giving me a moment of your time. So I gotta say, first off, Brian, your Thanos run, Batman and Bigsby, fantastic. Kate, Gumball, Invader Zim, My Little Pony, like you guys are like all stars here. I have to ask now, I'm a Chicago guy. Either of you going to C2E2 this year or anytime soon?
I will be going to C2E2 this year, yes.
I am unfortunately not. This is the year of, I just dropped the ball on cons, but I am planning on being back there next year because C2E2 is one of my faves to hit up. So
Also, same here. I owned a comic shop. They used to give me tickets, and now I'm going in as part of the press. So I have to swing by, Brian, especially if I can get my hands on one of the books here.
Please do. I'm going to be sad missing Kate where we can't get dumplings. We usually get dumplings in Chicago.
I know.
Oh, where are you getting your dumplings from?
I don't remember the name of the place. I forget it every year.
It's just someplace over in Chinatown. It's really easy to bop on over. And we have our little dumplings adventure every Thursday night of C2E2. So
Okay. Walk up
next
the main
year.
road and make one turn and it's right there.
We will have our dumpling adventure next year.
I was gonna say next year always works. Also, there's Fan Expo, which is a thing apparently now too. I read through it and I gotta say I got so many different vibes from it. Obviously, X-Files, Twin Peaks, right off the bat. Kid, I gotta ask, the art, was this your idea? I love, like, obviously compared to your last art, your stuff you're known for, it's such a simplistic art choice and stuff like that. Was that your go-to, or was this like, for this direction we need something simplistic and sort of not dark but almost like ominous? It hits almost the nightmare part, you know what I mean, where there's not a lot of bright colors, you need that tone.
I love bright colors, honestly. Like, and I am always like for folks who might have missed it, Brian and I also did a horror western called Chain to the Grave over with IDW, and that one was also, I think, very noteworthy in the fact that like the colors are like really toxic and loud and not what you'd expect of a western. And I just feel like color can bring a lot to the table. And so I was wanting to try something with this book where we start with kind of what you might expect, and then as the story goes to places you don't expect, the color story mirrors the written story was kind of my goal there, and hopefully I nailed it.
No, absolutely. I love that kind of how could I put it, almost void of other stuff, you know, a red, a blue, a green. That would have thrown me off on this, because you can't have it be too, it can't pop off the page. It has to be something you kind of take your time with. And I feel like the yellow is what really did it for me. Like just the almost like aged stuff. Now Brian, obviously as one of the writers, where's this? Well, first, Beth Willis, please tell me this was a play on Bruce. Because as soon as I read Beth Willis, I was like, I mean, it's on the ball there.
No, it was not a play on Bruce. As far as names go, you know, like I don't really know, even when Ryan and I were talking, I don't really know how her name even came into play, honestly. I totally see like the BW, like detective sort of thing there. So if people read that into it, it's, I mean, clearly a part of my psyche, you know, being a lifelong sort of comic book reader and Batman fan, but no, that was not the intention.
Are you a fan of urban legends? Both of you. I mean, this talks about Mothman, which is one of my favorites. I'll be honest with you. I always thought it was really cool. The documentaries don't do the legend justice, I guess. Like, you read enough about it and you're great, but the documentaries I wasn't a fan of. Are you guys fans of urban legends and stuff like that?
I actually, in fact, have a Mothman tattoo by Brian.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love Mothman a whole lot. I love cryptids a whole lot, like just in general. Like I love this blend of folklore meets urban legend meets like lost zoology. Like there's just so many layers to cryptids, then like you can come at them from a million different angles. But like Mothman has this added layer of, he can either be this like beast menacing teens necking out in the woods, or it can be this harbinger of doom and a prognosticator of sorts. And so like you run this whole gamut with Mothman, and I just absolutely, I mean, plus also like just kind of his look whips ass. Like he just looks really cool on top of all of that. And so Mothman's probably my favorite, but I do have a great love for all of that sort of cryptids, urban legends, all of that sort of side of spooky ooky lore.
To echo what Kate said, I think Mothman is particularly unique in the same way that Sasquatch is, and that they mean so much more than just a creature. There's a lot more layers to Mothman, as there's a lot of layers to Sasquatch, is kind of what it means for our relationship to the unknown and this, that, and the other. But as far as urban legends go, it's like that bit from The Dark Knight Rises where it's like you adopted it, but I was born in it, you know. I'm from Midwestern Northern Ohio. Kate's from the Ozarks area, like in St. Louis. So is that close to you, right? And so for me, and you know, I can't speak to her experience, but being in Northwest Ohio, you know, it's all cornfields. Like, so you just go out and ritually like try to invoke ghosts. You know, you'd go to Crybaby Bridge and do the little like 10 steps, spin around with your eyes closed and wait to hear the hanging witch or whatever, or the crying baby. And these different, you know, urban legends that are just all over up north. The Headless Motorcycle Rider of Lindsay, Ohio is like right around my right, like literally like 10 minutes from where I grew up. And so, you know, we just kind of grew up doing these sort of, for lack of better terms, you know, like invocation rituals in the summertime. As soon as you get a car, you know, you throw your keys on top of it, flash your lights 3 times, and drive through the dark until a demon shows up behind you or whatever. So that's kind of just been kind of my childhood in a lot of respects, and even into my teenage years, like where, you know, you take the video camera out and see if you can get it on tape and what. So yeah, I've always been a fan of that. I guess a fan of the thrill, a fan of the mystery more than anything.
Now I have never heard of any of the ones you just mentioned, although I'm about an hour northwest of Chicago. So we have Munger Road, which someone made a movie about, where these kids died in a bus accident. And if you park your car over the train tracks, they'll push it off. And then Cuba Road, which is a haunted road. And we've all had experiences on those.
Yeah, and they're pretty universal. Like the train tracks one, there's one that's outside of Cleveland that's the same sort of thing, where if you put baby powder all over the back of your car, you can see little handprints, all that stuff. So there's just kind of this weird folk lore, I guess, for lack of better terms, across America, that just kind of manifests in different little magic-y ways throughout the country.
Yeah, I mean, we got the 7 gates of hell, we've got the devil's tree, we've got, I mean, and just like on a more benign, like you got your good old-fashioned snipe hunt in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I love a good snipe hunt. When you are not on the when you are on the in the, you know, side of that one, man, it sucks your first one.
And I gotta say, turning having the moth dust, I thought was awesome. Just the fact of like, there's another how can I put it? Another element to Mothman wasn't just the character itself, but it's the fact that there's a drug you can get high off of and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. Where'd this idea stem from, you guys? I mean, obviously we're talking about the love of urban legends and whatnot. What made you want to write this?
First idea came from like how it was watching a lot of giallo pictures, honestly. And I kind of came to Ryan with kind of like, I was like, hey, how would you feel about doing like a giallo kind of in more my neck of the woods or whatever, like something Appalachian. And we kind of got to talking about that and this, that, and the other. And we got to talking, the more we talked about it, the more time went by. And in that time, like it kind of sunk into my subconscious. I started having some nightmares. Those nightmares became like kind of more waking nightmares, like stuff there where I couldn't, you know, was just having a lot of trouble sleeping, like escaping. And I was like, hey, I want to change directions if that's okay. And it became a more supernatural, less of a slasher. We still retained some of the early elements, but it really took shape. But once we kind of got a shape to it, then Kate, we kind of asked about if she would be interested and got her involved, and she started doing some designs, and the whole thing really fleshed out from there.
You gotta say, yeah, the it took a couple twists and turns that I weren't expecting, and it gives you an amazing cliffhanger. I'm not going to spoil it. You know, this has come out for a while, but there's got to be something planned after, right? There's got to be a
there is a Bible, but there's not like any guaranteed further publication. The thing for no one who's initiated into the book, it's as much of a cosmic horror thing as it is a sort of crime mystery. And I think anyone who's familiar with that genre of cosmic horror may find that cliffhanger type of thing isn't quite out of character, So I think for us it was satisfying for the team to have that as both a potential leading point into more, as well as just a finale. So I think all of us are comfortable with either or. Now that said, there is a Bible with more material.
And if there's some money on the table, I could be enticed back.
Plus, it seems like you guys have such a good rapport that this isn't really work at all. This is just doing a project with a friend.
Well, I mean, Kate's really doing all the heavy lifting, really, so I would hate to diminish her tremendous labor. Kate is my friend before anything, I love her dearly. So it's no labor for me to work with her, but yeah, you wouldn't need to convince me, I'll tell you that much.
No, I kid about the money, but truly Brian is one of my dearest friends. And so I'm lucky enough to be at a time in my career where I can, be very selective about who I work with. And I really just want to collaborate with people that I love right now. And so it wouldn't be, if there was interest down the line from folks outside of our circle, it's no labor at all to pick this back up and carry this on with Brian.
I know you said you wanted to do this in Appalachian, or that kind of rundown town, which I feel is how can I put it? It's a genesis for so many great horror movies and books like that. Is you need the rundown town, you need the old general store, you need the out of touch employees. This is all great. Now, were you guys, how can I say it, inspired by any horror movies or anything that not borrow elements, but something that would kind of resonate with you? You'd be like, you know what, this is exactly what I need, or something that kind of falls into that?
So, I mean, obviously, like what I had mentioned, Giallo pictures, Dario Argento, Mario Bava, and more the weirdness of Lucio Fulci was kind of like the origin. Those guys as directors, those Italian filmmakers, were kind of, I think, the origin point. But as the story kind of progressed and we kind of leaned more into the subconscious elements, I think that you could liken it to more like Lynchian, I guess, not by design, but almost by kind of a default, almost in a way. And so you kind of get a little bit more of that Twin Peaksiness once things start to slip outside of the realm of hyper logic. It gets into kind of non-logic or something where it's it makes sense to you, but you don't know why. I'm not really sure what this means, but I know it means something and it makes sense in this world. Those sort of things I think are kind of a bit Lynchian in that respect. And I don't mean to co-opt the term to self-apply as much as just I think there's a trust of the subconscious and a respect. And so filmmakers that inspire me are guys like David Lynch, or some of the weirder like Peter Greenaways and stuff, where they kind of lean into just trusting the intuition. But I think the surface point was really more Italian slashers.
And honestly, when it came to the colors, it was especially Suspiria, the OG, was it 77? The original Suspiria came out in 1977. That is the colors, oh my god, are just insane. And so when talking to Ryan and Brian at the beginning of the project, they talked, Giallo came up, and so that was definitely something that I knew had to get folded into it. But it's interesting artistically, man, if y'all go back and look at the pitch, the OG pitch from 2016, it looks like a very different beast, which I happened to have done the other day, and I was like, what a difference 6 years make. But it is, so I wish I could say as far as style design, where that came from, it really just kind of came from a place of me wanting to just be able to not draw licensed work for the first time in a hot minute. So I wasn't I was pulling from anyone's pages beyond. The color was definitely like especially for the climax, when things get buck wild. I was pulling real hard on gathering every screenshot. I like watching Suspiria and making screenshots and just I have this big old folder of it and just making palettes out of that and going from there. And because I'm a cheater and I steal all my palettes from everyone else.
You're just smart.
I gotta say, the cover is like so gorgeous. I'm a tattoo fan myself, and I have a couple tattoos I need to cover up. And I was like, man, the cover of this book would just look great on a hand tat. You know what I mean? I just gotta go talk to someone about it. That or anything Mothman. Seeing your Mothman tattoo, I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm planning on getting some eyes on the back of my hands when we get there. So, that is definitely good company there.
Every property from comics or anything like that has been turned into a movie, a TV series, anything like that. Could you see this being pretty much, how would you put this into film? I mean, you already said Lynch. I could definitely see Lynch, Cronenberg type stuff hitting on this. But would there be a dream thing for this?
I'm going to say something really buck wild.
Please.
But like, honestly, and not that this is something that I think he would ever be interested in a million years, but I would love to see the Bill Hader treatment, because if y'all are not watching Barry,
no,
this man can do horror, but it's not horror. It's like thriller, suspense, it's comedy, it's everything all together. And like the visuals have just gotten more and more stunning as like the seasons have gone on. And I can't imagine their budget's super high. And so like, I'm just looking at what they can do with so little, but doing so much. And I'm like, God, that would be a dream like director casting I would love to see what Bill Hader would do with it. But like, that's the total left field, I know.
No, I kind of like that.
There's I don't really have one, because like, I feel like there's so many, like for me, I'm not like precious about stuff, I like formats big for me. So with comics, like I want the comic format to make sense. Once you start to get into like TV and feature films and stuff, it's such a different format. So I feel like you can tweak the thing and change it to kind of be anything. And so with this is, you can kind of see it going more like camp, like Raimi, right? Or you could kind of see something more indie and modern, like Issa Lopez or somebody who did like Tigers Are Not Afraid. Like I think she would be amazing. Which is just more like, it's not necessarily quiet, but like considered and like delicate in its characterization and stuff. Lee Janiak, I think is how you say her. Like I love that, like the stuff she did for Netflix, the Fear Street trilogy, I thought was great and kind of has like great lore built throughout. I think she'd be great to make something vicious while simultaneously like with depth. I also really like Nick Antosca. Like he did that show Strange New Cherry Flavor and wrote on Hannibal and wrote like he was the showrunner of Channel Zero, which I loved that show. He was lead writer on that. So there's a lot of people I could see adapting this into their own weird little language that I think would be great.
It's funny you bring up the Fear Street. I thought that was so underrated. I really enjoyed that whole thing as an R.L. Stine fan from way back when. I was kind of nice to see something that wasn't Goosebumps.
Yeah, and her first feature, Honeymoon, was just completely weird and interesting and just very, very smart. I think Honeymoon doesn't really get enough love. So if you liked Fear Street, I would recommend Honeymoon for something. It's like a now for something completely different. Like it just is very unusual, extraterrestrial type of story.
See, I always try to tell people about various horror movies, like the movie Beyond the Mask or Behind the Mask, the Legend.
Oh, the Rise of Leslie Vernon movie. Yeah,
so I love that movie. No one else talks about that thing.
That's a great movie. The whole Ahab, the introduction of the Ahab concept, like where they named it, was just so cool. I respect the shit out of that movie. Pardon my French. I don't know if I can curse.
Oh, I think I've been cursing this whole time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, cool. Before we recorded, Kate called me an asshole for wearing a Cubs hat.
Just calling a spade.
But no, like I love how passionate and how driven you guys are by, lack of a better term, obscure films and older films, because I feel like a lot of the films now have just been so watered down and become almost cliche. Whereas if you go back to the 40s, there's the movie Uninvited. It's an old black and white movie, one of the first horror movies. So good, and no one,
French,
it didn't need special effects, and it was so good. I'm sorry?
It's French, right?
Fight to my death that Wait Until Dark is one of the best horror
I believe
movies
so, yeah.
ever.
The Hepburn, the Audrey Hepburn.
The Hepburn
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
where
Hell
she's
yeah.
blind and it's fucking terrifying. There's like no blood until the very end.
Sure. So, and I'm a huge Val Lewton guy. Like if nobody knows Val Lewton, the producer from the 40s, did Cat People and Bedlam and I Walked with a Zombie and stuff. So I love all that stuff.
All that class. And I mean, honestly, the OG Mummy, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, the 99 Mummy is the best Mummy, but the 1931 Mummy is also very, very good because it's the same fucking story.
Right. Well, and I love how I like how slow it is. Like it takes its time, it builds its dread. Like it's great. It's a great movie.
It's very effective, and it keeps the romance in it too, like the romance, capital R romance. You know, it's very romantic in that old school sense. But no, I just like stories. I just am obsessed with story, and wherever and whenever I can find what, you know, gets me excited, then that's where I'm gonna go. So
Same. And I think to even add on is I really like when I consume a story or enjoy a story and I'm not treated like I'm a buffoon who needs everything told to me. Like and I think with Silk Hills, like a lot of when we went into it was kind of trusting in the discerning reader who was interested in maybe reading something more than once, who like is interested in kind of a world that's not laid out clearly for them, you know, like I think it's great when things are laid out clearly if it makes sense and it fits in the tone and all that stuff, right? Like but I think a lot of times it's like things are explained to a degree where they don't trust the audience. And so for me, like I like a lot of old obscure stuff because they just kind of trust you to resolve it yourself, even if you get it wrong. You know?
it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It just, as long as, I don't know, I love the stuff that
Yeah,
makes
it
you talk,
engages.
that makes you think. There's no real wrong answer.
I agree.
Now with your guys' past, like I said, you guys have done licensed stuff and all that. Is there a dream project? Is there a project you would love to do, go out of your way? Nobody's in the way. There's no filter, no companies in your way. You get to create one thing, whether it be a mummy or pulled from Universal Monsters, anything you want. Is there a dream project where if someone tossed money at you or didn't
Like
even
a
have to?
like a license project you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
Is there
boy.
any character or anything like that you would jump on? A story that hasn't been told or something you would just like to, a toy or a world you would like to play in?
Mine would be Daredevil, probably.
I it's not so much that it's like a driving obsession, and I'm sure there's better adaptations of it out there, but like I just had this special love in my heart for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I think I could do a pretty good graphic novel of that.
Oh, that would be great.
I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I think I could actually smash that one out of the park. So, you know, call me, publishers.
On adaptations, it's interesting you bring that up because like I kind of always talked about like if I made enough money to where like I didn't have to sweat a project, I would love to do like kind of a extremely surreal look and sort of adaptation of the life of Joan of Arc.
Oh, that would be neat.
And
I keep joking about it, but one of these days I'm going to sit down and actually do like, because I'm not a huge fan of the scrolling comic format, but my students love it, so I need to figure it out. And like I keep on threatening to do a adaptation of Dante's Inferno, where as you scroll, they descend through the.
I want to read that.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be great.
And the other one I think for like it would be for me would be The Great God Pan, the Arthur Machen story from the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Or was that 1906? No, I think it was late. I think it was 1890s. But that's still just such a awesome book and full of great imagery.
Yeah, and I would always love to do something with the Ars Goetia, although curse you, Ari Aster, for bringing Paimon into his, oh my god. But you know, that's only one of the many lords and kings of hell and whatnot. So you know, there's the rest of them I can play with.
Well, they're using Valak too in the Conjuring universe as well. So
I haven't watched the Conjuring ones. It's fine.
I like the first one.
I like the first and the second one. I think the second one's scary. And I just rewatched The Nun the other day, and I actually think like I said it on Twitter too, is like if Stuart Gordon would have directed that movie, it would have been an instant classic. Like I think it's actually a pretty good script and it's pretty spooky.
I just have my issue with like the Warrens. I don't really want to see them made heroes because they were like really horrible human beings. And so I'm just like, nah, I don't really want to see them made these romantic good guys. No thanks.
There you go. You could write the story that shows them who they really were.
Oh, and then my ass would get sued so hard and so fast. They are a litigious bunch.
Just switch a couple of the letters. You're good. You know, I mean,
The Warrens.
yeah, exactly. I mean, what was it? Joe Hill on his Hill House and over at DC, they grabbed a Conjuring comic series, and yeah, that was I love Joe Hill, but no, that wasn't good at all.
Oh, bummer.
Oh, Stephen
No,
King.
actually,
That
he
is
has
someone
a-
I would love to adapt because Stephen King is Stephen King, and I love him.
All right, huge King fan. Love his son Joe. What King would you adapt? Like, what graphic novel is out there for you to play with?
Honestly, like, and I hate to say this because like I'm not a fan of the Kubrick movie, but I would love to do my take on The Shining. I just think that it's there's so much there, but it would be I would definitely want to do it more in the spirit of the book because the book is a much slower burn. You actually like understand why this couple like is fighting so hard to stay together even though like Jack's not a good person, and like it just the whole dynamics of all of it makes so much more sense in my mind like after reading the book. Also like Misery would just be I don't know, man, like I love Misery, although that one's a hard one because the Kathy Bates movie is so good. It already just kind of nails a lot of what I want to do tonally, but maybe one of the deeper cuts too. There's so many good short stories to dive into, but anyways, I'm just rambling now.
Well, not the tangent, Kate, but did you see the Mick Garris adaptation of The Shining with Steven Weber and Rebecca De Mornay, I think is in it?
Oh yeah,
Was that wasn't the miniseries, was
Yeah,
that?
it was.
I did, and but I watched it when it was literally on TV in what, like 97 or whenever that was. So I can't remember anything besides bad CGI, like the topiary animals.
I was just curious if you had any, because I know you said you didn't like the Kubrick one. I didn't know if you liked the Garris one at all.
And that is not to, I think the Kubrick movie is a masterpiece. It's just not my masterpiece.
Sure.
I'm just not
it doesn't do justice to the book.
No, doesn't do justice to the book, and he's just not my director, but that's okay because not everything's for everybody is what is.
So it's funny because I'm going to do this thing, which is like try to wrap stuff around back to Silk Hills because that's why we're here and I want to try to sell it to people. but realistically speaking, like all of these things that we're talking about, I think this is all the stuff that like whenever I write stuff, I don't ever go like I'll like if I need to do some like if I feel like I got to reference something, right? So it's like, oh, I'm doing this thing kind of like this. Maybe I should rewatch Twin Peaks. Like I might watch some of it, but I try to literally like get away from that kind of stuff. Because like, so when I'm writing, like I'm actually not consuming a lot, but when I'm drawing, I consume a lot because I'm like, I can do that on the side. And I think it's kind of interesting to see what kind of feeds into the subconscious when you go through that, like, at least for me, with what my process is. And I don't know, like with Kate, like, do you tend to, I'm like asking you interview questions now. do you feel like do you have a regiment, or are you like pretty consistent in how you consume stuff, or like, and then how it relates to your output, or you kind of have like seasons?
I have seasons like that, like because I have to have something going on when I'm working, no matter whether it's writing or drawing. Gotta love that ADHD brain. I gotta shut up the noise, distract it to get some work done. But when it comes to writing, it is very limited of what I watch, what I read, what I listen to when I'm not working. And when I'm working, like I just finished, I actually have just sent out a couple of pitches and had been working on those the last month or so. And when I was doing the writing, like I literally had a playlist of just covers of Sympathy for the Devil because I really was jamming with that song, and I was like didn't really want to listen to anything else, and like so I just found like 20 different covers of the same song and made a playlist of that, and that's what I wrote to for like a month. Like it will switch up, but then when I'm drawing, oh, it's that is open season. That is when I'm consuming. Like I will have podcast on, I'll have TV on, I'll have like that's my chance to catch up with my media that I've been missing out on. But because I can have it playing. And so there's a lot of media that I have consumed without ever actually looking at it, let's be honest. But but yeah, no.
I saw
but
that.
I saw that.
Really. I got a lot like that.
But although I do a lot more podcasts when I'm doing art. So we got the countdown. Oh, it's ominous.
60 seconds, name 60 movies, go. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. I appreciated all of this. Brian, I'll have to swing on over to C2E2. I'm working as press this year, so I'll be walking around Artist Alley consuming as much as I can because that's my jam right over there.
That's awesome. I would love to see it. You can pop by. I'll likely talk your ear off.
Dude, that's why I'm there. I'll also have to bring a copy of Silk over to have you sign. I work at a Barnes and Noble over here. So whenever I talk to artists and, or anyone who has a book, I like to bring as many of them in as I can. So I like to talk to people about it and sell them off the shelves.
Yeah, I'll draw a little deer man in there for you.
There you go. I like that. You drop something, I'll have it sketched onto my hand. I got a buddy who owns a tattoo shop.
Yeah, I own a tattoo shop too, so it works out.
And there you guys go. Brian and Kate are both pretty cool individuals. Again, that's Silk Hills. Check your local library, bookstore, comic store, whatever. Give it a look. I think you'll enjoy it. So again, this is Bob with Cinephellas, and until next time, peace.